show, you first need to open the video that is being streamed live. Look for the chat box on the side or bottom of the video player. This is where you can type your message. Click inside the chat box and use your keyboard to type out what you want to say. You can type words, use emojis, or even ask questions. Once you've typed your message, press the Enter key on your keyboard or click the Send button. Your comment will then appear in the chat for everyone watching the live stream to see. If you want to send another comment, just type it in the chat box again and press Enter or Send. Your new comment will show up below your previous one.
And the way they are constituted and how they are appointed are part of the problem with schools. I'm going to say that again. Some people argue that boards and the way they are constituted and how they are appointed are part of the problem with schools. Good day. This is episode 165 of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica Podcast, being aired Sunday, May 4, 2025. Welcome to regular panelists Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson-Brown. Welcome to you, our viewers. We invite you to send your comments and questions by using the process explained to you at the start of the show. You may also send comments by WhatsApp to 876-503-9995. We will try to highlight or respond to those comments and questions. Remember to subscribe to the podcast if you have not yet done so. It's easy. We are turning our attention today to school boards and will tell you how you can make a difference. Yes, you, our viewers and listeners. But we'll come to that in a short while. Today, too, frankly speaking, we are brought back to the issue of police fatal shootings. Up to the end of April, more than 100 Jamaicans have been killed in reported confrontations with the police. The response to that has divided the society, as seen last week when Jamaicans for Justice staged a demonstration in Halfway Tree, St. Andrew, calling for greater accountability from the police. At the same time, frankly speaking, the data show that Jamaica's police continue to make strides against violence and criminality. Last month, April, there were 44 murders in Jamaica, the lowest for any month in 25 years. Meantime, Winnie will remind us that outlaws willing to take on the police have been part of the Jamaican society for many years. She goes back all the way to Reagan. But before that, we turn to school boards. There's one for almost every government school, and they are responsible to the Ministry of Education for the management of these institutions. We have with us Merris Murray, head of the National Council on Education, the body responsible, that's NCE, the body responsible for school boards. Welcome, Ms. Murray. And we ask you to tell us, what is the NCE and what does it do?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. The National Council on Education is a statutory body. It was established in 1993, and it has a 7-point legislative mandate, but I'm just going to zero in on about 3. The NCE is a main policy advisory body to the Minister of Education on educational matters. The NCE nominates for appointment members of boards of public educational institutions. So the NCE is a critical nominating body for members of school boards to serve on various schools in Jamaica. And also the NCE has a substantive responsibility for training these school board members so that they can be equipped with the necessary tools to carry out this critical function of governing the schools placed in their charge.
Okay, wonderful. And I should, for disclosure, say that I am a I was a member of the NCE at one stage, and I'm a school board chairman. But I'm going to operate on the basis that Miss Murray will tell us all the things that we need to find out about boards. Miss Murray, do you accept the point that boards are responsible for or should be responsible for the quality of education we get in the institutions they run?
Yes, I agree. Effective boards. There's a popular saying, effective boards lead effective schools. So the board has a critical governance function, which is also a critical accountability function. And we know that accountability is that mechanism that ties commitment to results. So if we're talking about student performance, then boards are really high on the radar in terms of their responsibility to ensure that schools deliver what they're set out to do.
And we said at the start that you are going to tell us how individuals out there can be able to make a difference. And before my colleagues come in, I just want to ask you, it's said often that school boards are political organizations. They are set up by the politicians, the politicians that set them and run them. Is that true?
Well, maybe it's a misconception, but we know members of parliament have been. Let me just state what school boards are. School boards are creatures of statute. You know that Jamaica boasts one of the best school governance framework in the English-speaking Caribbean. Yeah? We have a comprehensive legal and regulatory framework. So school boards are creatures of the Education Act and its attendant regulations of 1980. Okay? So because they're creatures of statute, the board, the regulations and the act define the composition of these boards. Now, boards consist of nominated members, elected members, and ex officio members. And so the ex officio member is the principal who is appointed by virtue of his or her position on the board. The nominating bodies, National Council on Education, the church trust, and the board itself is a nominating body. Now, the contention is the NCE nominees on the board. What has happened is that over time, the NCE has relied on members of parliament to assist them in identifying suitable qualified persons in their various constituencies to serve on school boards. But if you look at the composition of a government-owned public education institution, let us say secondary, it's 15 members. 4 members, including the board chair, are nominated by council. And these
4 members are nominated of the typical secondary school.
Yes, government-owned are nominated by the NCE. NCE has over time delegated its responsibility to the MPs. The other members, you have other internal elected representatives, academic ancillary for the secondary administrative PTA, community rep, old student or past student representatives.
And who comes up with the chairman? Is that you have
but so the NCE has deployed, or not deployed, has asked, delegated that responsibility to members of parliament to assist us in finding the chairman and the 3 other council nominees.
And why is that working? Is that working? Because people are very upset with that.
I know, but over time there are challenges, Over time there have been challenges, and so that is why because go back to the reason why we're here. We're here to discuss what the Ministry of Education is doing in a collaboration with the National Council on Education as we seek to transform schools. Dr. Adrian Stokes, the chair of the Education Transformation Commission, states that schools can govern themselves.
Well, that was before.
Schools can govern themselves. So what we need is we need to find the best persons, the best candidates who have the necessary competencies. And that is why we're in the ministry in collaboration with the National Council on Education, has developed some set of guidelines to
Ms. Murray,
guide this
I want
process.
two quick things. And
Yes,
now my colleagues are ready to come in, but I
yes.
have to ask you these two quick things again. Is that reliance on MPs nomination that you should do? Is that reliance on them something that the NCE is proud of, and is it working for the country? And
Over
and the comment I've got already from a very well-respected principal who's saying church-run and trust boards are far more effective and government-run boards than government-run boards in local public system. Can you respond to those things? Why you keep MPs to do the work that you should be doing, the NCE should be doing?
Well, this is an age-old practice, but the revised procedures is going to modify that arrangement. And what we're asking is that based on the set of guidelines that are being developed, the NCE, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, has developed these guidelines. And one critical element of that guideline, is a comprehensive database consisting of persons who are qualified. We have revised the criteria for eligibility to serve on a school board, looking at board chairs versus and members, and what we're doing, and we're setting up a pool of volunteers, which members of parliament are required to select from this pool those persons who satisfy the criteria for becoming
So you're going. You go ahead, Winnie. Go ahead, Winnie. Winnie, we're not hearing you. Winnie, you are muted. Go ahead. Yes.
I didn't mute myself. Come on.
Go ahead now.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There's a viewer who is saying not hearing a thing.
Wow.
So I'm not sure what is happening.
I don't know.
Joshua,
yes, will look about
that is the only comment that's there, not hearing a thing.
Okay. So I want to go back. I don't want to leave this matter of the politicians. You're saying that there are some changes being proposed.
Yes.
Ms. Murray, there are some changes being proposed which would still keep the politician in the fray. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying that the politicians will play a role, but they must submit their nominees into that pool of volunteers, which will compete with the other nominees, and the best candidates are selected.
That's what's
That is the plan. That is the plan. That
Okay.
is the plan. That is the plan. So we're gonna. It's on a merit. It is going to be a merit basis in the best qualified persons who has applied to serve on a particular. Let us say, for example, Chetwood Memorial Primary. Well, that's a church school, or Corinaldi Primary. The best candidate. So if the MP is his onus is to ensure that he identifies quality persons who can serve on these boards.
All right.
But they won't be given his and they're gonna compete. They're gonna compete for the positions. At the end of the day, we're selecting the best candidates who have applied.
We are coming to the matter of seeking the volunteers, but we really want people to understand and know what they might be volunteering for. But
Yes.
a comment I've got again from another principal is here. I'm getting some comments on the phone. Is that there's too much of a struggle between the principals and the chairman of the boards, and that is worse the situation when the politics comes in. Can you tell us about your experiences with that, or the board's experiences with that?
Well, Jamaica is a small country, and we tend to be polarized. We don't have to say anything else. So, what we need people who are well trained, who understand the environment in which they operate, who are emotionally intelligent. This is part of the competency framework that we're introducing, so that we have to learn to work and live with each other despite our various persuasion. And we want persons who can act in the best interest of schools, who understand their fiduciary responsibility.
But Ms. Morris, sometimes
Yes.
that best interest of school is comes into conflict. The best interest of the chairman of the school board and the principal of the school board have two different contexts as they come to the matter of how to run that school. Isn't that a common problem? And we saw that flaring up the other days, or something like that anyway, out in Western Jamaica and St. James.
Oh, yes, but again, we were saying we picked up some challenges in that regard. Persons didn't have a clear understanding of their role. We have to make sure that the various players. Remember, the school board is a very complex creature of statute. It consists of representatives of various constituencies, yeah, church, NCE, and then you have the various internal reps and the community reps. And so, because of this melting pot nature of the board with the various stakeholders competing with various interests and goals and needs, you need to have a board chair and a principal who understand these concerns and to be able to balance them. And it comes with training, understanding of the needs of the various stakeholders, and emotional intelligence to identify and anticipate the issues that will arise, and so that you can resolve them in the short, nip them in the bud, or resolve them in the shortest possible time.
Hello, Miss. Hello. I have a question.
Go ahead.
The question is, as it relates to the management of schools, who is responsible? Is it the principal or the chairman of the boards?
Okay. Schools in Jamaica are governed by boards of management. Yeah? So you have the board at the strategic, operating at the strategic level, and you have the principal operating at the operational level. I know that oftentimes we encourage chairmen and principals to stay in their lane, but because of the blurring of the lines, oftentimes you find that there is a crossover. I remember, I don't know, frankly, if you remember Simon Clark, he always encouraged them to stay in the lane, because if you don't stay in the lane, you're going to get disqualified. All right. And so in our training, we emphasize that the board role is strategic in nature, focusing on those strategic decisions. And the principal is the head of the operational arm that runs the school on a day-to-day basis. However, there has to be some synergistic relationship between both strategic and operational.
Because it would appear as if the contention is triggered by the chairman getting into the operational issues. In other words, the chairman want to make decisions that will cross over into the principal responsibility. If the principal is the manager for operation, therefore, he is the one who is supposed to be making decisions as it relates to the operation of the school. And the board chairman, they are the ones who make decisions as it relates to policies. So it would appear as if that is where the confrontation or the misunderstanding comes up.
Yes, but we need to be mindful that they're not discrete activities. They cross over, they overlap, and it takes the kind of intelligent persons who are mature to understand when you're crossing over. The MC is governed by council. Huh? When decisions are being made, and I am aware that I need to get council's approval, I have to do so. I would not want to take the council by surprise by making a decision which in it is strategic in character, right? But it comes with training and understanding of your roles and responsibilities as members of boards of public education institutions. It comes with a in-depth knowledge and a sensitivity that you're sometimes crossing over, and all you have to do is apologize and pull back.
In your line. All right, Ms. Morris. So you are now looking for volunteers to do what? Can you explain that to me, and can you tell us who these people are looking and why you need volunteers? I thought that you had enough people already to more than fill boards, and then you just have a matter of nailing down. Go ahead and tell us who you're
Not
looking
true.
for.
We have issued a call for volunteers. We want to develop a comprehensive database that we can call on persons who are qualified to serve. We want and what we've done is we have redefined the qualification criteria. Redefine the qualification criteria, and we want to have an influx of persons with various skill sets and knowledge and expertise and experience so that it can bring to bear on the complex task that school boards have to carry out.
So
That's
tell us
the
who
key.
you want then. Tell us who you want.
So we have issued a call for board chairs. They must satisfy. We're seeking persons who have a postgraduate degree or some equivalent. All right, and that is for the board chairs. We're also seeking persons with various competencies. That is, so for example, persons with comprehensive knowledge of the legal and regulatory framework in which boards operate. We would like persons who understand the context of boards and what they do and why they do so. We want persons who understand their purpose and how they can execute with the least possible friction so that we can encourage our board member, we can ensure that our schools are responsive to the needs of students.
Okay. So how and so you want people who would become chairpersons, as well as you want people who might just become members.
Members. And we're specifically issuing a call for council nominees, persons who are qualified to be a board chairman or
And the
qualified to
main
serve.
qualification for being a board chairman that you're seeking is what? What would be the
Is
main thing?
the post-secondary education, which is a first degree diploma or association, and our associate degree. And we're looking at 3 years experience in supervisory management and a proven track record in supervision and management. And of course, you may ask me, how do we measure the deep interest in education and nation building? We look at the resume. So persons need to, so when they apply, and also excellent negotiating and interpersonal skills. And I have last but not least, conflict resolution skills. The board chair has to be able to manage conflicts. Yeah? Given given the very nature of the school board that it consists of so many persons who are with competing priorities and demands. And you have to
Yes.
be able to manage those demands in the best interest of schools.
Ms. Murray, now tell us, how does one go about applying? And I'm asking this because I'm going to come back to something. You mentioned Dr. Chris Stokes earlier. I'm going to come back
Yes.
after you've done this led part here to something that he said recently about how the boards are structured. But can
Okay.
you just tell us again now, how does one go about to apply?
Okay?
Before you answer that, there's a question from Keith P that says, are volunteers something new or been happening for quite a while?
Would you like me to answer?
Yes, please.
All right, it's not new. It's a school. In 2009 we issued a call for volunteers, and we're doing so again. It's not new, but remember, the persons who serve on school boards are indeed volunteers, and we're really zeroing on the council nominees, because we have no control over church and trust schools. So we're zeroing in initially under the guidelines for council nominees, NCE nominees according to the law.
And you
All
say,
right.
how many does the NCE nominate at the primary level? You said the NCE nominates 4 at the secondary level.
Right.
How many do you nominate at the primary
For
level?
for the government, it's important to note that the composition of school boards varies according to school type and ownership. So, in the case of a primary school which is owned and operated by government, not church, we will need two council nominees in the initial stage, but we're looking at, well, in fact, the revised guidelines will trigger some legislative amendments, and we're looking at the composition of the boards and where there are anomalies, they are going to be fixed. So as we speak, we need 2 nominees, one as a council member, a council nominee representing a member representing the National Council on Education and the board chairman or chairperson.
Okay.
Now for church primary, pardon me, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish it.
For church primary, there are no NCE nominees on the church primary school board. So but we're looking into that to see if we can make a different arrangement so that in fact, the guidelines will trigger review of the education regulations, and where we identify anomalies, we're going to try and close the gaps.
So just before we go to Dr. Stokes now, just wanted to ask you, how does one apply? What are the steps for people to apply to become volunteers?
All right. You can contact the National Council on Education via email. The email address is schoolboards@nce.org.jm. There is an application form that you're required to complete. Once you complete that application form, you can submit that application form to the NCE. We verify whether the individual is eligible for appointment, and that person's name is placed in the pool of volunteers. Now we're introducing a suite of criteria. On that form, in fact, the revised guidelines is also, we're going to be introducing the fit. We're not going to test for fit and proper, but we're going to ask members, the volunteers to make a declaration on the form that they are indeed fit and proper persons.
Okay, so we have the email address there.
Yes, you do.
On the phone. Is there any other way that can people just call you up?
Yes, you can call us. You can contact us at 922-1400, and it's extension 2031 to 34, and we always answer our telephones.
Okay, so just give us that number again, and I hope we can put it up.
Okay, it's 922-1400, extension 2031, and it goes up to 2034.
And we're reminding people this is all free work. No stipend, no nothing. School board services is entirely free work. The volunteers are not going to get any stipend.
Yeah, but service to country above self is very important. That's how we transform countries.
That's how the MPs work. You said this. And the councillors. Not quite like
that's a question for some other.
I'm not taking it on that road. Okay, but we want to go to some comments that made that, and there's a telephone number, and I will repeat that later. We want to just before we finish, we want to go through something that Dr. Stokes said last week. I don't know if Joshua has it there, and I think he does. I just wanted to listen to Dr. Stokes making some comments.
Issues in terms of voting rights on the board, to the board not having an appropriate blend of competencies needed for the particular school. These are issues we will have to deal with in the transformation process that is underway. In Jamaica, we have effectively decentralized our school governance system to boards that have the responsibility to hire and performance manage principals and teachers. However, the composition of the boards for government-run institutions, including who has voting power, can produce outcomes that are not in keeping with proper governance. In effect, a government-run school can have a board that is effectively run by persons from the school, producing the perverse result of persons from the school holding themselves accountable. In Jamaica,
Right. And I think we got
Just
the
one
message.
quick correction. It's not Chris Stokes, it's Adrian. It's Adrian Stokes.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Yes. But it's Adrian who is speaking.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. So the comments there that the school can actually take over and be running the board rather than and have he said a perverse result.
Okay. So I think what Dr. Stokes is talking about is that schools can't govern themselves. You can't, because invariably what you will find, the internal representatives may have challenges in terms of loyalty, challenges in terms of bias, challenges in terms of conflict of interest. And because, as I said earlier, these are competing demands and priorities that it makes it difficult, especially when those internal representatives outnumber the independent, what we call independent persons who are council nominees and church or trust nominees. In the case of the secondary government owned, oftentimes they outnumber the council nominees on the board. And I think that's what he's talking about. There's an imbalance. And his statement is schools can't govern themselves. And he's correct. Schools can't govern themselves. You want a core of independent people who may have no loyalty but to ensuring that they carry out their fiduciary responsibilities. And we don't say, please don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that these internal reps oftentimes vote independently. I know of a situation, and Franklin, you know of a situation where we face significant challenge, but we were able to triumph, even though the school had these internal representatives with divided loyalties.
Yeah. Okay. We want you to make your final comment, and we really want to thank you. But in this final comment, just tell us about the situation or the politics. You don't see a situation. Oh, I have one other question that was sent to me here. That some schools are some that you once spoke about, regional board with competent people that would manage 3, 4, 5 schools rather than smaller boards with not as many necessarily competent people managing the institution. Can you just give us those in your final comments?
All right. I just want to say that effective boards lead effective schools. When we look at the NEI report, a recent report that was published by the National Education Inspectorate, we recognize that there is a direct relationship or correlation between how schools are governed and the student performance and how schools perform. And it is in this regard that we are trying to transform how we appoint, how we nominate for appointment members of boards of public education institutions. We know that the board provides a critical level of support, right? And it is anchored within the main purpose of accountability, which is that mechanism that ties commitment to results. And it is in this vein that we are trying to transform the governance of schools. It's been long in coming, but I think it's here now, and we're going to do so. And we encourage members of the public to volunteer. Those persons who think they can make a difference, volunteer to serve on a school board in Jamaica. Did I lose sight of that question that you asked me, Franklin?
No, this is just the regional part in response.
Oh, the regional in the law, it speaks to joint boards, and it is a mechanism that is anchored in the regulations. So if you read the Jamaica Education Transformation Commission report, it recommended that we explore the possibility of the joint board arrangement so that it become, which is in my opinion might be more efficient and put less burden on the ministry to find qualified personnel to serve, especially in remote areas where we can't find sufficient individuals.
Right.
But it's a good idea, but we need to review. We need to make sure that it's tested, because some churches have joint boards. For example, Excelsior High, the Excelsior community has a joint board arrangement, which is joined between it has a primary school, a high school, and a community college. And also there is another one, Woolworths has a joint board arrangement. These are some of the things that we need to do to innovate. We need innovative strategies to transform school governance, because we know that where there is effective governance, our students are well served. And
the last one here, Ms. Murray,
yes.
a comment saying, is training provided for these people who are going to be volunteers?
Yes, and in fact, the guidelines is going to make it mandatory that they're trained before they even start doing the work.
Right. We want to thank you very much, Executive Director of the National Council on Education, Merris, for being here with us today, making that appeal for volunteers. Go to your school board, make a difference in your communities. And she's saying that she set out I'm sure Joshua will show us as we go along, and set out the email address, and you can call them by telephone, volunteer, and they will be getting back to you. They want people to volunteer to serve, and it's email, NCE, and the telephone numbers are flashing. School
can I just quickly look back at that telephone number? Let's make sure we get it right. 922-1400, extension 2031 to 2034.
Okay, so it's 922, and we will.
Right, the ministry's number and the extension is 2031 to 2034.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
National Council on Education. Thanks again, Ms. Murray.
Most welcome. Bye.
Okay. Thank you all. So we're going to go now to another area of our coverage this week, and it's to police fatal shootings. And Desmond wants to lead us off in this area. It's something that we've been speaking about chip by chip by chip over the last 2 months or so. At least since this year, it seems that the numbers have been up and up and up. And so, Desmond, over to you, sir.
Well, one of the things that I would like my listeners and viewers to understand, that police killings in Jamaica has a history. What we are witnessing now, the numbers that we are seeing now, is not new. Over the years, and for example, I can remember 7 years after 1980, the police killed over 200 residents over a 7-year period.
No, sorry, deal with that stat. Sorry, Desmond, deal with that stat. Each year for 7 years? Or
each
over
year
7 years? Yeah.
Each year for 7 years.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is not a new activity, and it has not led to the reduction in crime. That's not. Now, one of the things that I want to point out also, that, you know, the idea that when we talk about police killings, you're anti-police. That's not true. What we want our police, our security forces to be credible. Because we also know that people make up stories about them, you know. So when there is a shootout and the residents say, no, that is not how it goes. We want our security forces to be in a position to say, okay, here is the evidence. And that is why we are insisting that the security forces should wear body cams. It is very important. Now, the authorities, we observe that, for example, murders has gone down. Yes? And last month, 44 murders, which was the first time that in 1 month for over 25 years that the murder numbers were down so low. That is very good, right? We appreciate the numbers going down, because I think all Jamaicans, or most Jamaicans, would want to live in a country where we are safe. We don't want to be living in a country where every year we are killing 1,000 Jamaicans. And therefore, I heard the minister saying that we are going down to 800 this year. That is welcome. But what we are insisting, we want the police to be accountable. That is what we want. We don't want, no, most of these shootings occur during planned operations. So it is not that the police patrols were driving on a road and they were attacked. No, they have identified an address and a person that they are going for, and this is done in a planned operation. So we want one of the questions that arise here is that here it is. A planned operation is a group of policemen and soldiers, or policemen. It's not one, right? And one man decide to take on 10 and 12 policemen. Why is that so? Why this here? This has happened. Why? Therefore, we just want the police to be accountable, and we want the authorities to hurry up, put the relevant mechanism in place so that the police can wear body cams. That is what we are insisting on.
Desmond, I'm going to interrogate some of what you said there, but I'm going to allow Winnie to take a comment that is just coming there.
Yes, Ava Maria, she's saying, isn't that reduction in police killings to 44 in 1 month that you just quoted a contradiction to your original statement that police killings do not reduce crime? That's a question for you.
No, let me correct that person. It's not that police killing is down to 44 in 1 month. No. The murder number, the number of murders committed in April. Was 44. This is not police killings. 44, which is the lowest in 1 month in 25 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so Desmond, one of the questions that people have been saying is that, isn't it good that if you have a correlation where police killings might be up, but the murders are down? In other words, there are people who focused on the murders. It's the murders that we should be concerned about. It's the murders that we should be concerned about. And if that is going down, let's keep doing what is necessary to keep it going down. How you respond to that, Desmond?
Well, we want the murders to be down. Yeah. But we don't want police murders to go up. What we want
is not police fatal shootings are not considered murders. They're fatal shootings.
Well, what we want, what we want from a modern police force is that when first of all, if you encounter the police, if you take on the police force or the security forces with arms, you are endangering your life. And they are going to respond. If they respond with maximum force, I don't see anything wrong with that. What we are saying is that the numbers, we want the police to be accurate, right? We don't want so many contradictions where the police is saying, yes, there was a shootout. And people are saying, no, there was no shootout. We have been having this for years, and we want that to stop.
All right. Now Desmond, one of the things that I joined is the need for the use of body-worn cameras, the need for the security force members, especially those going on operations, prepared operations, to wear the cameras. I can't see why we can't get around to that thing, which is to protect our police force, to protect their reputations, and to protect the lives of people who might be innocent. Let's put it this way. If people take on the police, and that you have just said that, we expect the police to use the force that is necessary to deal with that person or those people who are taking them on. But it is a nation that must have some self-respect, a nation that must treasure the credibility of its police force, that should be looking out to say, make us find a way of showing people that what we are saying is the truth. And I think that is a reasonable position. Now, I know people have asked. Sorry, go ahead, Desmond.
I want listeners and viewers to understand this. When is the last time you heard from a prime minister or a national security minister condemning extrajudicial killings? No.
Well, they are saying, Desmond, they are saying it's not extrajudicial killing. They are saying if you take on the police force, if you take on the police, you're a gunman out there, you're going to go see your maker. That's their position.
Yes.
You're going to go see your maker. And therefore, what the argument is that the people who are dying in confrontations with, or reported confrontation with the police, are gunmen who have decided to shoot at the police.
Now, a question I would like to ask, why is it that 105 gunmen this year, 25, decide to take on the police? What happened last year and the year before? What is the reason behind this sudden urge in gunmen taking on the police in shootouts?
I can't answer that, and I don't know that anybody else tried to answer that. The argument that is being put forward, and I think, Desmond, that you as well as others understand that Jamaicans are fatigued by the murders, are fed up with the murders. They want something to happen to the murder. And they are seeing a correlation between an increase in police fatal shootings and the murders. So the murders are going down dramatically, and the police shootings are going up. And they say, give us that alternative to what we knew before.
Yes, well, as I said before, I think most Jamaicans would be happy for the murder rate to go down. I think so, because we have been enduring this for years, right? It is something that has been on our record. And therefore, as I said, most of us would want the numbers to go down.
Ava Marie has a statement here that I think she's answering the question. Ava Maria says, what happens when you disturb an ant's nest? That's her question.
I don't understand that question. We mean what when you disturb an ant's nest? What do you mean?
I suppose it's in response to your question about what has happened this year, why we have had so many police shootings. But Desmond, I wanted to take up something that you mentioned earlier, and I think it's very important. There are some people who want to spread this innuendo, to stretch this lie, that people who ask for accountability among our police force, because it's our police force, you know? It's our people who are supposed to be protecting us. It's the people's police force. That's what it has to be. There's people who want to spread this lie that if you ask questions of that police force, you're against them. That is a sort of fascist position. That is it's such a backward position, and I congratulate Jamaicans for justice for having the courage in an environment where there's so much political opportunism, where there are so many lies, to go ahead, few numbers, and to say, we want some accountability. We love our police, but we want them to be accountable. It is to be commended, because you don't want to get to a situation, you don't want to get us to a situation in a democracy like this, where you can't ask questions of those who have power and those who lead. You don't want to get there.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. The police force are servants of the people, right? And therefore, what we want our security forces to be credible. That is what we want. We don't want a security force to be incredible. We don't want that. We don't want every time we have to be second guessing or, be wondering if they are speaking the truth. No, we don't want that. We want an honest, credible security force that is protecting the interests of the people and protecting themselves, right? If you take up guns and challenge the police, you are endangering your life. And if you are killed during that exchange, I don't think no tears should be shed for you. No, should never.
Absolutely not.
So we want that to. We want
Desmond, before we go to Winnie.
We just want gunmen to understand that when they do that, then they are endangering their lives, and the security forces are not going to bow to them. And we don't want them to bow either. We don't want any confrontation between gunmen and police. We don't want the police to lose the battle. But we want credibility.
Winnie, you are going to take us back a little bit.
Yes,
before bad man about long time.
Yes, before I take you back, I think the problem is several issues are conflated. Confrontation with the police brutality, attitude to the police, extrajudicial killings, accountability. All these issues come across as one big issue. If we try to separate them and deal with them one by one, it would make it easier. And what makes it challenging too is that when you have that one number that people put out there, these are the number of persons, this is the number of persons killed by the police. In that number are those who challenged the police and those who possibly died innocently. So when we put everything together like that, people choose different parts of it to attack. So that is my view on that.
But give us, explain that, Winnie. I mean,
okay, let me say.
Police killings. We can't segregate anything unless we have those.
No, this is a problem. We don't have that. So say, for example, 144 people, I'm just using a number, killed. Within that 144 are those that challenged the police and those who could have died innocently. So when you just say, okay, 144 people killed, within that number, you are also including those who challenged the police and were killed. So
yes, but here's the difficulty, Winnie. Let's use the actual number, 108 so far this year.
Yes.
The police are saying that those people challenge the police. End of story.
No.
So there's no way of segregating it or desegregating it.
There is, because you have those who that Indicom has ruled that people should be charged, that kind of thing. So those that are under investigation. They haven't got around to that
so far yet. For example, for this year, they are doing investigations. As far as that, in fact, I checked last week, and they haven't ruled on any of those from this year as being necessary to be charged.
That is a problem. That is a problem, because there are some people who know for a fact that there are among those people are those that really confronted the police, and
those
that could have died innocently. It is never
time is running out on us.
It's a mixed
go
number.
On with the other parts of your discussion, because the body-worn camera could deal with that issue.
That would solve the problem. Anyway, the point I'm making is that this is not new. This has been going on for many years, as we know. That is why we have the movie, The Harder They Come, and the book as well. Reagan was one who challenged the police when he was being sought by the police. The harder they come, the harder they fall. Those that it is not strange. We can think of SSP Clooney and those men who died the same day. He died eventually. So we know that that happens. So I have no issues with people saying, okay, body-worn cameras are important, both for the police and for us to know what is what. No
You're
issues
saying
with
that those things reflect that bad man out there, that ban of
definitely, most definitely, and we have had enough evidence of that. There was a case, it was in Clarendon here, where the shooting against the police, it was so targeted that it was clear that this was not any ordinary man out there, someone that was trained. So we know that that exists. So I agree with the body-worn cameras. Now, one thing that has not been put on the table that I think would help, technology. Technology is at a stage where you can have a robot policeman, just like what they have in China. Is that video available, Joshua?
This one's packed. China just put a humanoid robot on police patrol. Let's get into it. Let's start on the streets of Shenzhen, where Engine AI's PM01 just became China's first humanoid police sidekick. The little guy stands 1.38 meters tall, weighs 40 kilograms, and wears the same high-visibility vest as its human partners. What makes PM01 pop is agility. A 320-degree waist rotation lets it scan crowds without shuffling its feet, and last month it pulled off a fully landed front flip that went viral on Chinese social media. Under the plastic shell sit industrial-grade actuators, a vision stack that can identify faces and license plates, plus microphones tuned for voice commands in Mandarin and Cantonese. Engine AI is selling business and education versions for 88,000 yuan, about $12,000. So surprisingly, it's cheaper than Unitree's sportier G1. For now, the PM01 is greeting tourists and keeping an eye on lost kids, but local police say it can also forward anything suspicious straight to the command center in real time. The patrol project is part of a broader Chinese push to sprinkle robots into public safety jobs. Late last year, officials tested the RTG, a spherical bot that cruises on land or water at 35 kilometers an hour and can survive a 4-ton impact. Deep Robotics, meanwhile, has its wheel-legged Lynx scrambling upstairs with thermal cameras to spot fires before firefighters even suit up. PM01 is the first to bring a truly humanoid form factor to that mix, and at 12 grand a unit, it's budget-friendly enough that a city could field an entire squad without breaking the treasury. While the pint-sized Robocop...
Well, yes, we should have taken that earlier. So thank you, Winnie, and I suppose all our viewers know that Winnie is the chatbot specialist here and the AI specialist here. And we should have taken that early. Really, that sounds look almost like another planet away from where we are. But we'll take that another time. I want to thank our guest this week, Merris Murray, Executive Director of National Council on Education, for making that appeal. We want to remind you all that you can go on back to use the same link and go back and see the show later on. Thanks to Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson Brown, our regular panelists. Special thanks to Joshua Black, our technical producer, the man also for all of those graphics and those interventions. Thank you all, viewers and listeners, for being with us again this week. I'm Franklin McKnight. Until then.